Shout out Sniper T on the beat.
Tamara to the break of dawn is on the rise, with life on the forefront of the mind. So line for line, you can ride this brain train and you can change your station without even touching the dial. So relax, stay a little bit, but listen for a while. And whether you're bumping this in the whip or in a business fit, it's a meeting you won't want to miss. A meeting for a meal to feed the soul with words for the mind. So sit back, enjoy the ride. Time to take off, it's time to fly. Cause Tamara till the break of dawn is on the rise.
Hey, y'all. It's me, Tamara. Yes. I don't know. That applause seemed it didn't really seem like it was giving what it was supposed to give, studio audience. Let's try that again. I don't really know if that was better, but I felt better about it. So, hey, y'all. Welcome to the show. To all my new listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. New episodes drop every Thursday, so come on back through. I usually talk about my life and the ways that I'm trying to grow, and all my day 1, 2, 3, 4, 99, whatever week you came in. Thank you so much for continuing to come through. If you're not, you should totally follow me on social media and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and the link to do all that is in the episode notes. This is a great episode that we have in store for you. I have Baylor is back. It's been a minute, and he's back for a non-power related episode. Yes, y'all. Way to show him some love. Welcome back.
Yes, I'm actually happy not to be talking about power right now.
You know what I'm saying? Me too. You know what I'm saying? Me too. So, how you been?
Life been lifing.
Yep.
Everything is good on this end.
That sounds about right. Life been lifing. Yes. So, your kids back in school yet? Like, how does that work on the I know you on the West Coast. Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, they kind of swap, you know. Then there's times where they're on track at the same time, so
Oh,
we used to it. But yeah, they back in school. We back at it.
okay. We here at the time of this recording, y'all. Some districts have started. The main one where we live has not. So I think they start next week. So it's kind of interesting seeing all the first day of school pics. I don't have that this year anymore. Like that's weird. It's very wild that none of my kids are in school. Like, how did we get here? How does that happen? I don't even know. But yeah, here we are. So guys, before we get into today's actual episode, we gotta do our I saw a tweet segment. And don't worry, Baylor, it's not one of your tweets because I haven't seen anything that
I don't have crazy tweets.
no.
I don't never really have tweets that people
Right.
get up in arms about.
But I saw this. I thought this would be a great way to segue into today's show. That this is actually something that I've thought about before. And for those of you not watching, it says, I refuse to believe that God told Noah to put 2 roaches on that boat. If you're unfamiliar with the Bible story, Noah and the ark, the earth was flooding, and the Lord told him to grab 2 of everything to save them. It was more than 2 people, because I'm pretty sure he saved his family, and they was having a lot of kids back in the Bible days, multiple wives, concubines, all that stuff. But as far as animals, he said the animals in pairs. So 2 lions, 2 tigers, 2 bears, and 2 roaches. Oh my. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? So what are your thoughts on that, sir?
But here's the thing. He didn't necessarily have to give him the okay. We don't really know the history of roaches. So they could already been there and they crawled their ass up on that boat. How about that?
So you saying that they floated to the top, make it drop on that water. We won't even go. We won't
Or,
even.
or like I said, again, we don't really know the history. Roaches could have came after.
Mm-mm. That is. That
Yeah,
is.
I
But
mean, and then if you really think about it, we go through another world war, and everybody nuke each other.
mm.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be a certain amount of roaches that's going to outlive those kaboom.
I have read somewhere, and it could have been social media. I'm not going to act like I did research, but I have read that they could survive a nuclear bomb, which is wild.
Yeah,
Just, yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, let me
But
know what y'all.
it was a good joke though. I like it. I thought it was pretty hilarious.
It's something I think about often, though, like spiders, mosquitoes. I don't know. Sometimes I want to be like, God, who all gonna be there as far as like heaven? Because I just can't imagine for the rest of my life dealing with spiders or mosquitoes and so I don't know. I might have to reevaluate some things like if he's just kind of letting anybody in there. So I don't know. We'll see though.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, y'all. So today's episode, let me give y'all a little bit of background information. I don't tend to do a lot of like war stories, as they call it, or I don't usually just have episodes where I just kind of talk about different parts of my past, but I was actually on Facebook. Yes, I be on Facebook because that's where I don't really have a ton of friends that I follow on Twitter. It's predominantly other content creators or people that I've met since podcasting. So all my like people, family, friends, etc., mainly are on Facebook and Instagram. And I saw a status where somebody said, I don't know what kind of friends y'all have, but I ain't never had a friend say, let's go smoke some crack. And it just took me on this bunny trail as I thought about my life. And I decided that who else would I want to do an episode of sharing war stories but Baylor? Because I just feel like he's lived the type of life on the west side of the map where he will have some interesting stories. So I will give y'all, I guess we'll just start with that story. So when I was had to be like 23, 24. So also all of the stories shared, guys, are gonna be from a long time ago. So the statute of limitation on some of the stories that I'm going to share, pretty sure has passed because these stories are over 20 years old on some of them, or close enough to where I'm good. You know what I'm saying? But anywho, once upon a time, I lived in the projects. So most places, when they have public housing, they'll put them in what is called the projects or um, public housing, whatever y'all call it, right? So
Hmm.
here, there were two projects. The ones I lived in have since been torn down, and they're actually there's three. The ones that were filmed on Belly. So part of Belly was literally filmed here in Omaha, Nebraska. So that was filmed. That's one of the projects. I think those are just called the South Omaha projects. Then there was Pleasant View, which was where I lived. That has since been torn down, thank God. And then there is Spencer projects, which I've just recently read. Those are going to be torn down pretty soon. So
The project is over.
yeah. Just not the South Omaha Belly projects. Them is still there.
It's probably a landmark at this point.
It probably is. You know what I'm saying? That's probably why they want to keep them. However, so lived in the projects. That's where they sent me after I had my youngest. So I was a mother at this time when this friend of mine, who was a neighbor, her and her husband were what you would call functioning crackheads. So they weren't the kind of crackheads that you see on movies, Pookie and all that stuff. They wasn't out here like Wanda on Snowfall and all the crackheads we seen on there. It wasn't like that. Like he would go to work. She was a stay-at-home mom, and for their leisure, some people drink alcohol, some people smoke weed, and then apparently some people smoke crack leisurely. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it is. So
Mhm.
I'm over there, no judgment. I don't generally judge people anyway. Like, what you do is what you do, unless you get into like harming kids or harming people in general. I ain't really too worried about it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm over at her house, and it's me and her and another neighbor who's a functioning crackhead, but he was like an older dude who was kind of like maybe retired age, because this couple was older than me. So not old enough to be my parents, but definitely close, old enough, whatever. And so I'm over there. I don't know where my kids were. I'm guessing they were with their grandma or something, because I know they weren't at home while I was over here kicking it with them. And this is back when I used to smoke weed, and I'm doing what I do. So that was my relaxation and having a few drinks, and they're smoking their crack, and I'm right there in the room with them. And they offered me some, and I'm the kind, now I said no. Let's just put this out there now. I don't want you in any way, shape, or form to think that I smoke crack, but I am very much the kind of person that any drug that I've ever tried, and I haven't strayed too far away from weed, but I usually ask a lot of questions just to kind of see what the experience is going to be like, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm asking them because again, I've known of other people that smoke crack and it really had them strung out. These were the first, like, I don't want to say like normal people, but I just didn't really know that was a drug that you could smoke and not be strung out and all crazy. So I'm asking questions, and they're like really trying to convince me to smoke crack. And yeah, and these were my friends. Like when when I got my tonsils taken out at 25, she like took care of me, and so it's not like these were people who didn't care about me, but yeah, my friend offered me some crack. So to say that you don't know what kind of friends people have, I mean, I had the kind of friend that is smoking crack, and I wonder how she's doing in life. I haven't, like, once we moved away, because of the way we moved away, I really didn't. And then this was back, like, I didn't have social media back then. This was almost 20 years ago. So yeah, I wonder how she's doing in life, if she's still out here. So yeah.
Well, that was different. I would probably put my money on she's still alive because apparently, crack itself produces longevity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've never been to a crackhead funeral. So here's the thing.
Okay, that's true.
Um, I've never been offered crack, but I have my history of being around crackheads in the city of LA a lot. Functioning crackheads, I never knew any personally. If I've ever been around some, I wasn't aware that that's what it was.
Hmm.
But I have done some research on it before because I think there was a guy that went viral some years ago that I caught, and I think he worked for NASA, if I'm not mistaken.
And he smoked crack?
He was a functioning crackhead.
Wow. Okay.
And then, you know what? I'm not even sure if I'm getting the the right brand right, but I want to say it was I want to say he was like an engineer or something like that for NASA. It was something major, something major.
Wow.
But he said he admitted it though. He get his money and he would blow it all on dope. But shit, it worked.
Yeah, clearly you working for NASA. Like what?
Yeah, yeah. So that's different. Now let me get this straight. Does it do my stories have to be does drugs have to be around?
No.
Okay, okay.
Not every story.
Although I do have some, I don't think it's as potent
No, not
as crack.
none of the rest of my stories are. Well, I've lived quite a life, so I won't say that. But no, your stories don't have to.
Gotcha. Because
Yeah.
a lot of my stories have a lot to do with um, potential violence, guns, and celebrities. Okay.
Okay.
So the first one, no names.
Okay.
Definitely no names.
Yeah. We're not going to share names of
Yeah,
anything to
yeah.
protect
But
the guilty.
let's just say I had a friend
Okay.
allegedly, and I'm allegedly all my friends.
Same. Although she didn't allegedly, like she really offered me crack. We not allegedly
Yeah,
that. That was
yeah.
real.
And shout out to her because
Yeah.
she didn't mean no harm.
And she was sharing. Like some people, they be stingy with their stuff, and she was like really trying to share with me. So
Sharing is caring.
mm-hmm.
So this particular day, we found out, the homie was a little bummed out that his girl was moving on and wanted to mess with another person. This person happened to be a new player for the Lakers. So he was still, I want to say he was still in his rookie contract.
Okay.
And we knew where he stayed at. We allegedly knew where he stayed at.
Is this person allegedly still alive, or is this person? Okay, I just I was just trying to guess who.
Well, I mean, if I'm not gonna give up the name, but I'm definitely gonna say he was a role player. So y'all would have to do the math and all that other investigating behind that. But he was a role player for the Lakers at one point, and we knew where he stayed at. And he how it is when you fall in love with somebody and you're not completely over them, you would hide in the bushes, so to speak. And I heard that they went towards that particular person's residence, and it was gated, as you can imagine. Because even on a rookie contract, you still got a little bit of change in your pocket.
Yep.
And they somehow found out where this particular player was staying at or was living at, and she was there, and he was going back to get his girl. And I can just say this: if y'all come out here and y'all fall in love with somebody and they get with an NBA player, it's over. Okay? It's over. It doesn't matter what level they are at. They got a little bit more pocket change than you. Okay? And they're in certain circles that you're not in. Okay? Right. And so, they took a trip. From what I heard, it was a packed vehicle. Everybody had on seatbelts. That's important.
Okay.
And they did a stakeout, and they was just waiting for those particular people to come out the establishment.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
So what was the plan like when the people came? Because
I think the plan was for him to actually have a talk with her.
With all them people there?
Yeah. I mean, no fair fades,
Okay, gotcha.
And then sometimes you have people that's willing to do the dirty work for you.
Okay, gotcha. I mean?
That's just the type of lifestyle that they live. And so that was the ultimate goal, was to actually talk to he wanted to talk to her, tell her how he felt, things like that. I knew the whole time. I don't care how much talking, singing you do, it's over. You know what I'm saying? But you can't really tell that to a man whose heart is broken. You know what I mean? And there's mixed emotions of anger, rage, sadness, etc., all mixed in there.
Jealousy, probably too. Yeah.
Oh, at the highest point. And that actually fuels the rage. So, Now, the ending result. Nothing actually happened. Did he get to talk to her? Yes. He absolutely did. But that was after she left.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And I'm not sure if they actually ended up together.
That was
But
my next question. If
no,
they
no, no, it was over.
okay.
It was over. It was over. They
How
couldn't.
how long did she stay with the NBA player?
Not long, not long, because
See,
that's how that stuff goes. Like, because
yeah.
you got to think at that age, you're a young player in the league in
Mhm.
LA. You're not
Yeah.
looking for it. At the most, you're just looking for something to be on a trophy. You know what I
Yeah, that
mean?
makes sense.
And then you're just going to fall in line with the other trophies, or you're no longer a trophy at all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. I can't even remotely try to guess who that was, so that's fine. It's all allegedly. Speaking of allegedly, and I guess that's a good way segue. Speaking of stakeouts, so this next story from my teenage years. So, fun fact, y'all, and mind you, my teenage years were back in the 90s. So, this was back, like, the chances of this happening back then is actually kind of wild. Like, it happening now makes more sense just because of how fluid people are with, like, their sexuality and stuff like that. But when I was in high school, and I didn't date a ton in high school, but out of the small list of boyfriends that like actually like this is my man or boyfriend or whatever, two of them turned out to be gay, and one of them, it's interesting because the friend who hooked us up, she knew this, and so I don't know why she tried to hook us up in the first place. And yeah, it was very interesting with both of them because with the first one, we we didn't like have sex or anything like that, but we were somewhat physical, but it didn't go there, which shouldn't have been doing that in high school anyway, but whatever. So here we are. And then when he broke up with me, like that was his reasoning why. So, okay. Then the next one after that, we never kissed. We never like it was we never did anything. And I always thought that was weird. And so I'm like, is this dude like cheating or whatever? Because every time we would make plans, it was always, oh, well, I'm, not at my he stayed with his grandparents. Oh, I'm not at home because they be arguing and this, that, and the other. And so then me and my friend get you some friends who will do a stakeout with you. Like me and old boy, we got solid people in our lives because in high school. So this ain't even adult friends. Me and my friend drove, parked kind of up the street at night, have binoculars. Why we were doing all this for a high school relationship, who knows? But come to find out with him, he also, not like shortly thereafter, because he never found out about this. Shout out to him in case he happens to listen, but he might not know it's him anyway. Anywho, yeah, he broke up with me, and now he didn't. For him, he didn't say that's why, but then I just started paying attention to his life after that, and then I was just like, "Oh, okay." So, cuz like for him it was like I don't know. And I don't know if it's because physical touch is one of my love languages, but I just remember it made me feel some type of way as a high school girl that I have this boyfriend that like we didn't kiss or anything. Like that was just so weird to me. And I didn't think it was like this, oh, you're trying to be respectful, or I don't know. It was just very weird. So that made me feel some type of way when we were together.
Uh-huh.
But then once I found out about his lifestyle choices and that it wasn't me, it was just that I'm not, what he wanted at all, then it actually made me feel better. It's not like we stayed friends after that, just because we didn't go to the same school, so there was really no reason to like whatever. We went to the same church for a while, so I would still see him here and there, and then actually ran into him randomly. He worked at some establishment that I went to, and he like gave me a hug and all this stuff. And at this point, we're adults, so he's very much like out there and kind of like the flamboyant type. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but yeah, just the odds of, and those relationships were pretty close together.
Mm-hmm.
The odds of that happening in the 90s is just kind
Yeah.
of, yeah, because like nowadays that could definitely happen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be you didn't know. It's just people are very free, and there's a lot more acceptance and stuff like that now. So like I could see that happening now,
Yeah.
but in the 90s, like,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I mean, shout out because we know how difficult it was
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
them to come out about their lifestyle and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
that's a different level of bravery
Mhm.
right there.
Mhm.
So yeah. Well, I mean, all I can say about that is that you definitely saw that. Maybe I wouldn't necessarily call it a struggle, but it's like like I said, it was hard for them to share their truths. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So you could very well be in a relationship with the opposite sex, but not really into it because of what you really prefer.
Mhm.
You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Because of how the world was back then.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So shout out.
Yep. Yep. Shout out.
Okay. Well, another situation. Uh, a friend wasn't necessarily a close friend, but we was in the same circle. A cat had a buzz around the city. He was a rapper, up and coming,
Mm.
and so when you are an up and coming rapper, obviously you want to make sure you get a buzz within the city. So you
Mhm.
want to bring in the core, the fan base from your hometown that will back and support you, which would help you, somewhat help you get a buzz across state lines and hopefully
Mhm.
across the country.
Right.
And so, but you got to start at home. And that's what it was. So typically, what they do, and obviously, you can speak with more people from the industry that would know more. But I knew that you had to go to these local clubs to perform
Mhm.
or show your face and things like that. We talking about clubs from all over the city in different districts and counties and stuff like that. You got to go all over the place. So there was a popular spot that we used to go to called Club Ice, and
Mm.
it was near Universal City. Actually, it was like right down the street from Universal City Walk.
Okay.
And he was scheduled to perform, not just perform there, but like show his face and shake hands and la 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 la. So to us, it was a regular club night, but different because he did have to perform. Back then, and even till today, was the popular thing was the entourage.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So we were considered his entourage. We all met up at a certain spot, and it was like we're about to head out. We'll meet up at Club Ice. We're all going together. We'll all leave together, which we did. And we got to Club Ice, and that's exactly what happened. He performed, you know what I'm saying? Shook a couple of hands. We partying, we dancing. Then we get we about to head out. We all leaving at the same time. I said, cool. I'm a young adult, you know what I'm saying? Young, my early 20s.
Mhm.
Wherever the night takes us. 2 o'clock in the morning, no big. Let's go. We head to Beverly Hills, and a lot of people that follow this particular record label, uh, they know where I say when I say certain streets like Wilshire. Um, we pulled up. It was this long black gate, and it was a security guard older black security guard, and he had like a 4.5 on him. And I just remember the gate opening, and we pull up, we pull inside, and we was about 4, maybe 5 cars deep. And we pull up, and as we all get out, that guard came around. It's easy about 20 of us, and we getting patted down. I have no idea where I'm at. For one, because I'm just rolling. I didn't realize where we was at in the city that we was in until we actually got out and everything had transpired. So I'm not, because some of the entourage was actually in a limousine. Everybody else was in cars. So, you know what I'm saying? We listening to loud music. You know how ignorant we get.
Mm-hmm.
Pull up, we get inside. We see a lowrider that we've seen before. We've seen some other cars that we've seen before. And all of the gate closed behind us. We get patted down, and we just standing there. And we stood there for about a solid 5 minutes. Now, that 5 minutes is a long time. You know what I'm saying? When just nothing is happening.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, we see the silhouette of these 2 bodies. One of these cats is like super tall, kind of chunky. And then he was heavy set. And then the other one was short and stocky. And it was just like a movie. It was just like a movie with the extra suspense. And you see the silhouette, they come from the dark into the light. And it's Suge Knight and P.D. Pablo.
Oh, we name dropping. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, those celebrities I could drop. Okay. I don't think they, it's all innocent.
Right.
But at the time, this is the early 2000s. But you don't have to be from LA to know what Suge name meant.
Mm-hmm.
Not just to the city or anywhere else, but in the industry as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on YouTube, and other celebrities you can go down those rabbit holes of their stories when they met Suge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I see Suge, the classic cigar. You know what I'm saying? I'm not too worried about P.D. Pablo because all the music he put out was innocent, fun. You know what I'm
Carolina.
saying? Yeah, come on. I see y'all. You know what I'm saying? Freak Elite,
Yeah.
But he had on a full jumpsuit. It was made out of jeans, though. It was a jean full. So I was a little concerned about that. But you're extra warm though, because I'm cold.
Yeah.
But you got Suge. And he got the cigar, and he goes around and he gives everybody, the dap, the have hug and dap. And I'm like the 5th spot from the last. So I'm watching 15 other cats. And I'm like, in my head, I'm so nervous. I'm like, do not mess this up. All the stories we heard.
Right. Do
not mess this up. Okay. Two stories inside of this story. Shout out to my boy. I'm going to say his nickname, G-Boy. G-Boy know who he is. He was so nervous that he pulled Suge towards him.
Oh my goodness.
I said, don't do that, okay?
Right.
You don't do that. He finally got to me. And right before he got to me, because everybody he went around with, he looked him right in their eye. I looked that man right in his eye, gave him that, said, how you doing, Chief? He said, good, good, good. And I kept looking until he looked away.
Don't show fear.
Never show fear.
Right.
Never show fear. We're in the lion's den.
Mm-hmm.
And for some apparent reason, I wasn't afraid of P.D. Pablo. He came over there, I dapped him up, how you doing? But when Suge came around, I was like, chest up, chin up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. Now here's the scary part. It was me and my boy G Dave. And me and him at the time we was heavy on the drawing. We was heavy on the artistic side. And somebody blurted out something about, oh yeah, they could draw. And then that's when Suge was like, all right, well then y'all double back, come back Monday morning. We can see if we can talk about getting y'all to do some album covers.
Oh.
I was scared. Okay. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I do not want this opportunity at all. I didn't even know I was coming here. Okay. So, and I just remember when we left that night, G Day was like, "You coming back?" I said, "Nah." I said, "I'm not, bro. You can come back. I'm not coming." Till this day, I'm not even sure if he went back or not.
Oh, that's what I was about to ask.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he went back. I know I didn't go.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And that was it. I want to say years later, I did see Suge at like a gas station, at a random gas station in LA getting gas. But outside of that, yeah, that was one night. That was one of those nights where you just had to be there or not.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine having such a reputation that people turn down opportunities because, like, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, but I feel you. You know what I'm saying? But that's just wild to have such a reputation where something that, I mean, we might not even be talking. You might be this famous, whatever.
A famous story on YouTube of me getting
Yeah.
hung over
Oh,
the balcony.
oh
Yeah.
gosh.
Oh, and the reason why I brought up that Lolo is because I was Pac's lowrider. I was Tupac's
Mm.
lowrider, and then there was that off road four wheeler that was in the California Love video that was parked next to it.
Okay.
And obviously, this was after Pac passed away.
Yeah. Well, that okay. So Baylor could have been famous and chose not to.
Yeah,
But I feel you. You
yeah,
know.
not
So
that kind of famous.
yeah. So trying to think about which way do I want to go because these last three stories are. I guess we'll go here and then yeah, we'll go like this. Okay, so speaking of imagination, guys, imagine. Okay, so back to drugs. This is back to drugs. This is allegedly. I'm not going to say who was involved with any of this. I will just say, whatever. So once upon a time, wet, like people smoking wet. I mean, it's still a thing, but this was kind of like when it first came out, or at least I first was hearing about it, right? So,
PCP,
no,
Angel Dust.
no. So it's actually embalming fluid.
Oh, that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's sad that we know all these.
It is, it is, it is. And I've lived, see, and this is why I am the 42-year-old. I just work,
That was one of back in the 90s. That was one of the most dangerous drugs right there. Like
hmm
cats used to be, it used to give cats superpowers though. And
hmm
I've heard some real
yeah.
graphic stories
Yeah,
about that.
I've known somebody that died like trying to, I don't know if he was shooting at the police or trying to fight. It was like this whole crazy story, and it's this, I guess this is a sidebar to the story because it's a dude that I actually used to mess with, but then like we stopped talking around, and then years later he died. And yeah, they said he had been like really heavy on wet or whatever. So in my, at some age past the statute of limitations, long time ago, I and somebody that I was dating, now our relationship was, and I'm being very vague only because I don't want, I don't know, like I'm transparent with my life, but they might not want people to know this, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Right,
So
right.
it's somebody that I was talking to at some point in life. I'm not even going to say the age because people that know me may be able to piece it together
They're
if
gonna
I
double
say,
back. They're gonna double back. Yeah.
yeah. So there was once upon a time that I was talking to somebody, and our relationship wasn't the healthiest, and it wasn't like it, a lot of back and forth, and they talked to other people or whatever. And there was this point where one time I did try smoking wet. I ain't gonna say try it. I smoked it, and the way that we did it, and it was just this one time. And then when I tell you what happened, I'm the kind of person that if it's something I never want to happen again or do again, then I just, or even if, like when I quit smoking cigarettes, I used to smoke cigarettes. It's because I got tired of feeling like it was controlling me. So, like, if either I feel like something is controlling me or I need something too much, excuse me, and or it gives me an experience that I never want to happen again, then I will just, I'm good. You know what I'm saying?
That's kind of like alcohol with me.
Yeah. And even with that, like I'll drink here and there, but I've never really been heavy on drinking. Like that's just never really been. I don't like the one time I had a hangover in life. So here's a side story, I guess. I've lived quite the life. At an age that I don't even know how I was buying alcohol because I was not old enough and I was the oldest out of our crew. But myself and a couple of friends, I remember us drinking and we had a fifth of tequila. This is why I don't really mess with tequila like that no
Mm.
more. And there's only three of us. And
Tequila Gold.
yes, yes,
Wee.
yes, yes. I don't, I think it's because the person that I was with only dated Hispanic dudes. That's the only reason that I could think. Because that's not traditionally like a black drink back in the early 2000s, whatever. At least not the people that I would be around.
It wasn't popular amongst the black community more than what it was for the Hispanics. But I
Yeah.
mean, we got down with the silver and the gold before.
Nah, we around here it was mainly gin. Like the people that I was around,
Shout out to
Seagram's
Snoop.
gin, yes, bumpy face. So, anyways, uh we were drinking, we had this fifth of tequila and we finished not the whole bottle, but almost the whole bottle. We're at my friend's parents' house because, like, she was still a minor. We were all minors, technically. None of us were 21. So I was not contributing to the delinquency of anything because I was the delinquency of a minor at that time. But so we're at her parents' house and she's like throwing up. They're just like, I was drunk, but they're like throwing up. So I just kind of left. I, to this day, God was definitely with me because I don't remember driving home. I remember it was nighttime and the road that I was on was like this 2 lane, non lit up road. I remember starting driving, and then the next morning I woke up face down in my bed, had a hangover, and it was at that moment that I knew, I don't know, being drunk is not for me. Cause like the next day when it's like when we not on that no more, I'm not trying to still feel the effects of what was going on yesterday. Like it's a new day, sleep it off, let's move on. But yeah, no. So that was the side story. But the wet story. So person I was with, how we did it was because there were a few different ways that I've heard about people doing it. I've heard of people dipping the blunt in it. We didn't do that. We did smoke a blunt first, but then there was the people that you dip it in this certain type of like cigarette. So it's not like a regular Newport or whatever. It was some other. Was it Pall Mall? I can't remember, but it was something. And so then that's how we smoked it. So it was me, the person I was talking to, and like their other person that they dealt with. For some reason, all of us were together. I don't really understand why. And then what happened was, so we didn't have a threesome because I never touched her and she never touched me. But what happened? What happened is this thing where like I'm laying here and he's laying or she's laying there and he's just kind of going back and forth between the two of us. And when I think about that, as I was thinking about like what I wanted to, like, I'm not going to go super graphic just in case my
Oh
kid.
no, but this like you didn't pitch this to HBO?
No.
No, because I like my stories. I'm done. Like what I didn't. Wow, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So the thing about it, when I think about it in this hindsight, as I was really thinking about it, is that like nobody was using protection. So just the nastiness of kind of going back and forth between us. And then she ended up getting mad and like walked out of the room. And then that's kind of how it ended because then he went to go like see if she was okay. I apparently was cool with whatever was going on because I wasn't mad, but I tend to be more nonchalant anyway. I mean, like, if this is what we in this moment agreed to do, then I guess this is what we're doing. Like, what I'm gonna be mad for.
Right.
Um, but it was because of that. Because like, why did that even happen? You know what I'm saying? That like wet? No, that just that is not a drug for me. Like
I
at
can honestly
all.
tell you, I didn't see that coming. Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
You know
Nah.
what? I gotta say, I gotta tip my hat to you for sharing a story like that that I did not see coming. Like for real, like boy, did we live a life, didn't we?
And most people, and that's the thing with me, as far like, so from teenage years to, I mean, it's not like I've lived a perfect life since late 20s, but late 20s is when I shut a lot of stuff down that I was doing. And so, but I lived a life prior to that. And so that's why I'm the way I am now, especially it's really once I had daughters because my son is the oldest, but you don't really think about I never really thought about like teaching him how to be a man. Like his dad has
Mhm.
always been in his life. He's actually lived with his dad most of his life. And so like I never really thought about that. But then when I had daughters, then it became this, okay, well, who am I? Like what am I modeling to them? And I didn't like I was a mom when this happened, but it's not like they were anywhere around, but still it's like I started thinking like am I the type of person that I would want them to be like me? And that's what kind of made me start changing some things in my life. So like then how I am now, like yeah, I have wisdom and healthy boundaries and all this stuff is
Well,
important.
that's what makes the story dope is because where you're at now, how you carry yourself now. If you
Mhm.
wouldn't have never shared that story, I'm not even going to imagine that even happened.
And you know what's hilarious is there's actually a story that's worse, but I'm not going to share it because I think I mean I'll tell you when we finish recording.
Yeah, you thought you was gonna get past that.
No,
Yeah.
no, no. I
Soon,
already
soon as we say stop recording,
yeah,
what was that?
no. But I'm not gonna put it on here because I mean my kids are adults now, and I just think about it's public knowledge though for people that you know what I'm saying, kind of live around here. But I think about my kids, yeah. So that yeah, that was that's why I don't smoke wet anymore.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
let's go back down to PG-13.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so many stories popped in my head, but I want to share this. I want to get away from the celebrities.
Okay.
This one, if y'all will go ahead and break out your Googles
Mm,
and type up Nickerson Gardens.
I'm finna
Uh,
do that while you talking. Go
so
ahead.
so so the Nickerson Gardens is it's a set of projects we got out here as well.
Mm,
You know, it's
okay.
one of our famous projects, and we have well, we had it. I'm not sure if we have it anymore. At least I haven't heard about it around the city. But we used to have this summer league um, where they would have these. They would put they
Watts. Okay, this is Watts.
yeah. So we will have it was called Summer Night. Was it called Summer Night Lights or something like that? And some of our hood parks would have games and you could pretty much just show up with a team and they'll just throw you some jerseys.
Oh,
They'll have
okay.
like odd names and stuff like that. But they also had various teams that represented the park. and I was never really attached to a particular park. I was just attached to a team, and we would just travel to these different parks and just play. You know what I mean? And they had rankings. They would have championship games and stuff like that. Now, if you're not familiar with the Nickerson Gardens, then the story would probably mean nothing to you. But I will probably, I will try my best to describe it as I tell you the story. It is the projects, and it's one of the scariest projects that you can go inside of. There's one way in, one way out. Justin Bieber, I still to this day, I think it was a rollout.
One way in, one way out is dangerous. Like that. That in
Uh,
and of itself is
so
scary.
I encourage people not to Google it, but to go onto YouTube and they can get a better understanding of what the Nickerson Gardens is. But this particular, they have a gym, and I remember I'm at home chilling. My boy called me up. He was like, "Dog, we need one more." And when you play basketball, you love to hear that. You love to hear, and we going to such and such. We need one more. Are we trying to put a squad together and run? You got it. As soon as he said, "Dog, we need one more," I said, "All right, where y'all hooping at?" We at the Nickersons. You said where? We at the Nickersons, bro. Come on, I need you, Baylor. I'm not gonna lie. The whole time I was driving there, I was doubting myself. Don't go. Make up a lie. Don't answer the phone next time. Do something to where you don't. It's one of the most hostile environments that you could be in. I'm legit nervous. My anxiety is on 1,000. I'm having a panic attack while I'm driving because I'm going to the Nickerson Gardens. I am scared. Tim, I'm scared.
But you kept driving.
I kept going because of my ego, right? But I'm scared. I'm literally scared. I don't know these niggas like that. We stay right next to each other. I still don't know these niggas like that. Get there, and it's like walking. Let's put it like this. I don't know if this is going to make sense, but where we're from, we don't have a lot. It's very few, if any, sundown towns, right?
Okay.
But this would be a sundown town for anybody, including Jesus. Jesus walked through, he might be like, "Dog, I didn't know it was going down like that over here." Okay. And I'm walking up. Now this is how scared I was. They had sheriffs there. They got sheriffs outside the gym. Tim, they don't have sheriffs at all the parks.
Yeah, that's a little different. A lot of different.
They got sheriffs there, and I'm still scared. Okay. And I just remember parking my car facing the gym on a side street. Because anything pop off, I'm ready to get in, pull out, and go. The two side doors in the back of the gym leads to the projects. So if anything pop off inside that gym and you run the wrong way, you're running to where they want you to go.
Yeah, danger.
Now, the dope thing about LA is you have to communicate with people. You have to talk with people. There's this thing, you probably heard of it, for a lot of out-of-towners, it's called checking in. Sometimes checking in is not just paying respect and saying that you win. Checking in, it can save your life. You know what I'm saying? Because now, when you are traveling through certain neighborhoods and they know your face, you might be a celebrity or an athlete, both, and they want to rob you. If you know certain names, they can get you out of that. Or they can get your chain back. They can get your money back. They can save your life. Google the story about E40 and Biggie. You know what I mean? It's really like that. So I'm neither one. I'm not a celebrity and I'm not a high profile athlete. I'm a low budget athlete. I'm from the city, but I'm not from that particular area. And I go in there and I'm nervous. If you play sports, you know how important it is to get to warm up, to have confidence before this game is going to start.
Oh yeah.
I didn't have it at all. I'm cold. And the only reason why I'm cold is because I'm scared. But nothing helps like knocking down your first shot. And when you knock down your first shot, it's like, all right, I knocked down one of my first shots and I got confidence until they subbed in one of these cats that was subbed in to foul on purpose. That was his whole mindset, was to go in the game and to start a fight. Somehow we avoided the fights. There was cats that we knew from the Nickerson projects that we was cool with, and we was glad that they had some type of rep because they didn't bother us. But the reason why I brought up that story is that I was scared. Okay. I was scared. That's probably the most fear that I've ever had in my life was going to that gym, even with sheriffs being there and later finding out, yo, we know such and such, he's from here, we know such and such. Yo, calm your dogs down, please. You know what I mean? But just picture yourself going inside of a hostile gym. 90% to damn near almost 100% of the gym is from those particular projects. And even by you being from Southern California, if you're not from that area, no, forget that. If you're not from those projects, you look like a foreigner.
Wow.
Which is weird. Now, we could have went to school together or played against each other in school, went to the same JC or D1 college, depending if you got out or not. But for the most part, nah, because a lot of them people don't get out of the projects. And it's not like I'm saying, hey, you know what? I ain't got nothing to do today. How about we go to Nickerson's? No, we don't do that. You know what I'm saying? If we do, I guarantee you, if a girl is involved, most likely we're picking her up outside of the Nickerson's. Yo, you got to meet me on such and such corner, then I'll pick you up. I'm not driving in there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's how it was. It was so hostile, but it fed my ego though. Because I felt like if I can go inside this gym and survive, and by survive, I'm not meaning they're gonna shoot it up or anything like that. But it's a 50-50 chance that you can get your ass beat before the sheriffs can come and break it up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that was the thing, like it gave them a reason, and it just happened to be a Saturday night, Tim. And we're playing before house party hours. So you could beat somebody ass and then go to the house party. And then beat somebody else up. So that was huge because we ended up winning the game. We took an iconic picture, and the reason why the picture was iconic because we lost 3 people since then. I was in that picture. That meant a lot to us. But that was the last time that particular group was all together. You know what I'm saying? That roster. But that was one hell of a night. And I remember that phone call. Like, Baylor, we need one. As soon as he said Nickerson's, I was like, shoot. I could not come up with a lie. I couldn't come up with a lie. So I went through with it. That's when ego really kicked in.
Yeah, nah. One thing I'm glad about with my son, I was just telling my daughter this the other day, is that when it comes to stuff like that, he would have said no, just because I've noticed where he will not, even if it involves something that the person is saying, this is something you would want to do, like, I don't know, whatever his interests are or whatever, he'll still turn it down if it involves he could potentially, especially the way some people around here, like, the gang culture is very interesting around here because there's like hoods, but then there's like a lot of these younger cliques that aren't necessarily officially Bloods or Crips, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
They got a lot of cliques that they're like spinoffs of the
yeah, exactly. And they're almost more dangerous than, you know, because
they are more dangerous because
they're
they're trying to prove a point.
yep, because they're younger, and so I've seen where he's told me that so and so invited him wherever, and he's like, nah, because he be beefing with so and so, and I'm not trying to be
Caught in the
like,
crossfire.
yeah. So, okay. So, speaking of choices, um, allegedly at some point in my life, I had my own place, so I was obviously an adult. I don't want, because my mom has lived in this house for a long time, so I don't want anybody thinking it was her neighbors around here that I was doing this. But I lived somewhere, and I had a job, so I'm not really sure why I was on this. But as I think about my life, like a friend of mine and I were talking about some of the stuff we used to do in high school, like stealing really used to be a thing that I would do, and I had no reason to be doing that. Like, yes, my mom was a single parent, but it's not like I grew up, like, I didn't grow up in the projects. They put me in public housing because that's what they did, like, when I became a mom and wanted income based housing. But it's not like I grew up like that. So there was really never a reason why I needed to be doing the stealing that I was doing in high school. Like me and somebody used to like when so not like I did used to play basketball. So not like when I played sports, but when it was an off season and people the athletes will put their stuff in the locker rooms while they're practicing, and me and somebody allegedly would go through the lockers and see what we could come up with or whatever. So I don't really know why we were on that. We talked about that recently, and then it's just something that continued on into adulthood to a degree. Like I ain't never been a booster or nothing like that because I've always been more so about calculated risk, that I am not really worried about getting caught, or you know what I'm saying, what the consequences are going to be. And so I had a neighbor that I worked I worked nights and she worked days. So she would be gone during the day and I'd be at home, and for whatever reason, I would break into her house and take stuff though, like detergent. So not like nothing too crazy, like detergent, toilet paper, but like she would have stuff in bulk. So I'm taking like whole packages of this, that, and the other, or just like random stuff like that. And then I got two, I won't even say somebody else who was in on this with me, they got a little bit too, I feel like, greedy and
Mm.
decided that they wanted to take her stereo system. And so then what happens is then she calls the police because now it's like, okay, I got robbed. Like you might not notice detergent or toilet paper because somebody could have used it. Like she had
Uh-huh.
kids,
Right.
which sound makes it terrible. Why was I stealing from this woman who had kids? But whatever. But a stereo, that's a little different. You know what I'm saying? So she called. I heard her scream because it was like a duplex, so like you could hear. So I heard her come home and scream. She called the police, and then she came knocking on my door, asking me if I had seen anything. Of course, I said no. But I at least stopped stealing from her. But did I stop stealing? No, because then me and this same person and someone else were walking broad daylight. Lord have mercy. And there was this lady waiting on the bus, and it was like for those of y'all that live here, like we were on L Street. So L Street is like a main street here in town. That's not like no side. So like there was traffic there. I don't know why we were in the middle of the day this bold as to snatch this lady's purse and then run. And we had our plan that we were going to split up, that way if somebody got caught, we wouldn't all get caught. So I'm the one that had the purse. The other two people that I was with, we all went different places, and then it was like around my house in a sense, like not like super close, but close enough to where the plan was to meet back at my house. And yeah, so she screamed also, and I was the one that was like, because we snatched it and ran, so I was the one that was in front, and I didn't look back. Hey, if you got caught, you knew the risk, so I just kept running. She did kind of a little bit try to chase after somebody that I was with. Um, but we all escaped that. And it wasn't until a few years later that I finally like I don't steal anymore and have not stolen since then where um so I told you this was me living in the projects, and when I got my tonsils out I was 25. So I'll tell the age on this cuz I didn't do nothing. And I remember they gave me hydrocodone, but because I was so like really they said I should have had gotten my tonsils taken out like years ago. And so because when they did it, they had to do kind of like a more extensive removal or whatever. They had to like normally you're only supposed to get like one maybe bottle or whatever or one refill. I had to get beyond that just because of my pain, and it wasn't me like trying to be whatever like that legit, you know what I'm saying, what was going on. And so I remember being just sleeping a lot as part of my recovery, and what ended up happening is I don't know who did this, but at this time I used to smoke cigarettes and I would buy cartons of cigarettes to like and just keep it in the freezer so that I would have what I needed, you know, when I needed it. And so cartons of cigarettes came up missing, and then I had my money in my wallet, and part of my money got took, but it was part of my rent money. And so like somebody stealing from me. Now to this day, I kinda might one like not like I know for sure who it was, but I kinda have an idea, but I don't have proof and there was no way to really like whatever. So I just kind of the way I took it, it is, you know what, that's what you get because look at what you were doing, and I just stopped stealing like after that. So yeah, that was the life that I was living, you know.
Okay. Okay. So that was episode 2.
Yeah.
All right. All right. All right. There was a time where we were celebrating. I want to say we were celebrating one of my friend's birthday. We went to a lounge. And I got a couple of footers on my squad. What that means, I got a couple of tall people that I know, and we were, we found a lounge down. Well, it was near downtown. No, this was actually near Beverly Hills again.
Mm.
And I remember the Miami Heat were in town to play the Clippers. They were going to play them Sunday afternoon. And this wasn't planned or anything like that. I think this was just a spot that one of the homies found, and we all linked up and went out there. Went down there and just chilling. When we get together, there's a lot of debating about sports and hip hop, drinking and stuff like that. Well, this particular night, there was a few Miami Heat players that was in there. The thing was, these weren't the cats that was actually going to play the next day, and they knew that, right? They already had the DNP next to their name. Now, at first I didn't really recognize them, but they were some tall cats, so we figured they had some type of sports background to them. So one of the homies pointed them out, like, no, he from out here, and we played against him in college. They play for Miami. It was about 3 or 4 Miami Heat players. We had a section, and we are some outgoing, fun cats. If you check our track history from, bachelor parties or any type of party where there's diverse of people, we draw the crowd in. And we did that night. We had some people around us, and the casual people that were there didn't recognize those players. Because again, these are not household names. Are they professional NBA players? Yes. But if you're not really into basketball like that, you wouldn't know those particular players. we knew them, and they had more money than we had.
Mm-hmm.
And so they getting bottles and bottles and bottles and bottles, and we had got bottles too, but not to the amount that they had. But the attention that we were accumulating, they somehow made their way over to our section, and then brought the people that they were with them, and merged the parties.
Okay.
Here's the story though.
Oh,
They
okay.
got so wasted, right? And I got wasted that night too. To where I got up in the morning, and Marcia tell you, I'm in the shower on my knees praying to the shower. Please take this away from me. I promise I won't do this again. I do have an episode that came out recently about my drunk stories. Or my hangover stories, I should say that, because I don't like to mix drunk with hangovers. The reason why is because I've always heard people say I got so drunk I passed out, I didn't know how to do this. No, I've drunk a lot to where I've gotten sick. Not necessarily, and I've drunk enough to where I'm not supposed to drive, but I knew that. So I was aware of what I was doing the whole time.
Right.
There wasn't one time where I drunk so much that I don't remember, or I blanked out. Not like that. But I did drink to the point where I had to sit down, I had to throw up, I had to lay down, and majority of the time I couldn't eat anything the next day, probably the whole day. And this particular night, drunk a lot. And I just remember the joke was, when I went back home, I'm throwing up in the morning. I turn on basketball. I turn on the basketball game, and I can see those same players at the end of the bench with towels over their head, and they was out of it. They was out of it. I know if I was feeling that, because they went hard. I'm talking about, they, like I said, they had a bottles on, and what had got me sick was the mixture of different type of drinks.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. But I'm looking, my homeboy called me, he said, he was like, "You watching the game?" I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, "Nigga, look at the Miami bench and look at the end of the bench." And I looked, and you could just see 4 players with their heads down like this with towels over their head. I was like, I know where y'all was at last night, but
Right.
yeah, so that was fun.
Wow. Okay, so I guess this is gonna be a twofer. These are my last stories because they kind of go together. So um, I don't usually talk a ton about what my relationship was like with the girl's dad, simply because he was already gone by the time I started this show. So before he passed away, as part of especially like doing youth ministry or working with youth, like the transparency that I have on this show, it started way before all that, just because as me trying to guide young people on why you shouldn't do certain things, I've always been really transparent about my life. But with, I think either September or October, I believe, is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And so, like, all of this kind of goes to a segue of that. There was a time when he, I guess I won't really put him all out there like that. So I'll just say he just had a lot going on in his life and was not making the best choices as far as what he was consuming and stuff like that. And what I will say this about ecstasy. That's another drug that I've tried before. Tried it, I think it was twice. And why I didn't like it is I build up a tolerance for things very quickly, which could easily make me have to take more. So if I take something and the first time it has this crazy effect and then the next time it doesn't and I took the same amount, then I'll never take it again, because it's like, nah, you're not finna have me out here like Pookie, you know what I'm saying, or Wanda, even though Wanda wasn't a thing back then. But so the thing though about ecstasy is it's not just this party drug that they kind of market it as on TV. The reality is it is a drug that intensifies whatever your mood is. So if you are
You
in
gotta drink a lot of water with it too.
yeah, that too. So if you are in a party mood or wanting to be intimate, yes, it very much can make the experience amazing.
It's kind of like marijuana too, depending on
Yeah,
the strain.
to
It heightens your mood.
however, the thing about ecstasy is though if you're very depressed or
Mm,
angry or whatever, it also heightens that as well.
yeah,
And then when you have something where you go through something traumatic and you're taking that to kind of escape, but it's something traumatic that is causing anger, you're not going to make like healthy, sane choices. So there was a time that we're arguing on the phone, and come home. He came, like, I was already at home. He comes home, and I actually like fell asleep because I didn't necessarily think he was coming back, but whatever. And where we lived at this point, I kept a knife in between the mattresses because I mean, you just never know what's going to
shout
jump
out.
off. You know what I'm
Stay ready. You
saying?
ain't got to get ready.
Yeah. Well, the ironic thing about that though is then okay, so we're arguing and I remember I don't even now cuz this was I was 25 when this happened. Um I don't even remember what we were arguing about, but I just remember I got up. I think I had to go to the bathroom. That's why I went in the bathroom.
Mm,
And then I go to come out the bathroom and this man has the knife in his hand. The knife that was supposed to be to protect us from other people. You know what I'm saying? Not to be used on me for me to get stabbed multiple times by this knife. And the thing about it is, at that time, I was way smaller than what I am now. And our so my son was at his dad's house, but the girls were they would have been like 3 and 1 turning 2 or something like that. And my oldest daughter happened to wake up and there was like the gate in front of her room and she saw this and she remembers this
mm.
because we've talked about it since then or whatever. And then so when I say stabbed multiple times, like I have 13 scars in different spots all over my body. And I remember where when our oldest daughter woke up and like was looking at like what is going on, he he asked her like if she wanted the knife and wanted to do whatever too. So it was really like this movie of that's how gone he was off, whatever he did before he came home. She of course said no, and that's a traumatic thing that she's had to like process through or whatever. But what's wild is through all this, I never cried. I never screamed. Like my neighbor was shocked that all this was going on because she was awake at that time and she said she heard us arguing, but she like I never cried, I never whatever. When I cried was before he left. So he had this one last little stab and he stabbed me like in my leg and then left. That's when I cry. Not because you stabbed me, but because you just left me here, whatever. And
Mm.
then our oldest daughter must have went and gotten the phone to call 911 because I like where the phone was and whatever. All I know is I had lost a lot of blood because this wasn't a da 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 da. This was this drug out thing where I'm like stabbed and like bleeding. You know what I mean? And then like I said, at that time I was like a size maybe 7 at the max. I was like really, really small. And I'm 5'9", so that's small, you know what I'm saying? And so lost a lot of blood and kind of like passed out, but like came to and heard 911 on the phone, and then they came or whatever, and they took me in the ambulance or whatever, to the hospital, this, that, and the other. And then the crazy thing about it is I lost my job because of this, because I already had however many points. And even though I was in the hospital because I got stabbed, I guess they wanted me to come to work instead of go to the hospital. I don't really know. So there's that. Then we lived in public housing, and apparently when something like that happens to you, you are putting your neighbors in danger. So I violated whatever community guidelines or whatever, so I got evicted. And so yeah, that was
Mm.
2005. It was, though, the segue with that to like end it on a more positive note is then fast forward, and this actually was something in my somewhere in my 30, like early 30s. This A friend of mine somehow found out about some domestic violence campaign. That's how I know when Domestic Violence Awareness Month is, because I actually was a model. And you know what? I'm gonna make one of my photos. I'm gonna make that the episode cover art, where I did this whole photo shoot. They had us in these like ball gowns. They fed us all day, and it was to bring awareness to domestic violence, but also to like. By this time, I was living a different life, and had healed and whatnot, and so just kind of like turnaround stories for people, but they like really pampered us all that day. That was the first time I ever had like my makeup professionally done by somebody else, lashes, all that fancy stuff.
Uh,
And so that was, I guess, the positive from it, in a sense, but it's because of that relationship and just other stuff. Because obviously there are red flags before you get to something like that. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's not like the whole relationship was violent. So it wasn't, that was an isolated incident as far as that. However, there were still very unhealthy dynamics, and that's why I'm so the way I am, always like, be healthy in your relationships. It's better to be by yourself than to be in this situation, because unless people want to get help for themselves, they're not going to change.
right,
And a lot of times you'll stay in these relationships because it wasn't all bad, obviously. Just had this conversation with somebody the other day where it wasn't all bad. However, the bad was bad. You know what I'm saying?
right,
And it doesn't just go away without somebody really having a turnaround. Now, I will say, because you guys don't usually hear me talk negatively about him, or I wouldn't even say that's me talking negatively. That's just me stating what happened. I don't feel any type of way about it because I have since forgiven him. Forgiveness was always for me. You know what I'm saying? For my own healing and freedom and peace of mind. But then also, like, before he passed away, he was a different person. You know what I'm saying? We found out that he actually had some mental health struggles that kind of played a part into that. Like, that's kind of when people started kind of, okay, how did we get here type thing. You know what I'm saying? So we kind
mm,
of found some of that stuff out or whatever. But yeah, the domestic violence though photo shoot, it was a super dope experience. I'm actually still connected to the organization. Like, they do this annually in different cities, and or they, sometimes there are kids or men, or like not just women go through stuff like this. and sometimes they'll reach out to like see where I'm at because they want to do like where are the models now, you know what I'm type thing. So it was a really really cool experience that came from that I don't obviously I would have never guessed that would have happened, but when people know what you go through, they kind of, and then you could, you know, try to make it better for the next generation or whatever. I see as my kids are adults how much I would never want to go through what I've gone through again. However, if me going through it and it making me the type of person that I really teach my kids about communication, boundaries, and all that. And so, them being, especially the girls, we talk about it the most, 18 and 20, and saying, well, no, my mom taught me this. So, like, why aren't you communicating or why aren't you whatever? To be at 18, I was not on that. You know what I'm saying? So if me going through that made was like can make it better for them, if nobody else, not to mention all the other youth that I've poured into, then I mean, I guess it just is what it is. Like I don't have any regrets because yeah,
Because Tam did that. So hopefully you won't have to go through that.
that part.
It puts things into perspective.
Mhm.
It also shows you the character that they once were and that they grew into.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
now you can approach them and talk to them in a different light now that you know the background.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? All right, that was episode 3.
Yeah.
That pilot itself took off. So if you can give us 10 more episodes, that'll be just fine.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, I kept some stuff out because I'm like,
Yeah, I mean you can't give them everything. Disney does the same thing.
yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? You can't give them everything. Put it in the book.
yeah. People
Uh,
have said I should write a book, and who
yeah,
knows?
yeah, yeah. It's content. All right. So to wrap up mine, this is it's a quick one. This one goes back to high school,
Hmm.
and shout out to moms. May her soul continue to rest. I never told her, and she'll never know unless she listens to the. I think she listens to the show.
Hmm.
Um,
Shout out! Thanks for the support.
yeah, yeah, she definitely tunes in. And this was high school. I want to say 11th grade. I want to say I even remember the outfit that I had on.
Hmm.
And so I used to walk to school with some friends that I grew up with that we went to middle school with. They also had a younger brother. He was a year, maybe a year or two younger than us. And I remember that day because I walked to their house. The thing was, I would walk to their in middle school. I used to walk backwards to walk to school with them because we walked in a group, and we would also go pick up another girl on the way, and we would all walk to middle school. When high school came along, it was a different route. They stayed off the same block as the high school. I only stayed about 2 or 3 blocks away from my high school, and but I had another homeboy that went to a rival high school we went to. So he used to catch the bus to school to his school.
Hmm.
And but what I would used to do is me and him used to share closets. So sometimes I would wake up early and go to his apartment, see what like dog, what you got. You know what I'm saying? We
Hmm.
communicate on the phone the night before. You got that? Or I'm gonna come over there in the morning and get that if it was too late. And so I would go to his apartment and he stayed 2 or 3 uh, houses from where I was going to go pick up my other friend. And so what I did when I he stayed in some apartments, and there was 2 guys at the gate. Didn't think nothing of it. It did look fishy, but I didn't think nothing of it. And again, I'm in high school. Obviously, they didn't look like they were in high school, but they looked like they was in their I would say somewhere in their early 20s.
Okay.
Walked past them. I'm not sure if I said what up to one of them or not. Um, did what I had to do when I went to the homeboy house, then left. Saw them still outside. And then I went to my homeboy, his sister, and his younger brother. They stayed off the corner. So went inside the house, spoke to mom, spoke to their step pops. We're just waiting on the younger brother. He was a prima donna. You know what I'm saying? Well, we already ready. We waiting on him. He in the tub. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So we waiting on him, and that we kind of got like fed up. Like, dog, we're not about to be late. You just gonna have to catch up. So as we're about to walk out, me, my boy, and his sister, he's in front, and I think I'm behind her. So she's in the middle. We're about to walk out. As he opens up the door, someone puts a gun to his face, right? Tells him to back up, right? And I'm like, oh, snap, it's going down, right? And I didn't know
What?
what was going on. I just know I seen the gun. I seen the homie back up. That's a cue for me to back up as well.
Yeah.
So he did this where he grabbed his shirt as if it was a walkie-talkie, and he was like, "I got the suspects contained.
What?
Make sure you bring backup." So I'm like, I felt a sign of relief. I'm like, yes, this is the police. Cool. You know what I'm saying? They about to do their thing. I'm gonna go. You know what I'm saying? Now, not like that because it is the homie house and stuff like that. I'm thinking it's a raid. So fun fact: his family members that was lived on my street at the end of the corner was on cops. That's a whole totally different story.
Okay.
But he was like, "Yeah, send backup." So these two cats walk in. I'm like, I'm chilling. I get it. They told everybody to go in the kitchen and sit on the floor, which we did. We all went in the kitchen and sat on the floor. Everybody, his mom's, step pops, me, him, and his sister, we're all sitting down on the floor in the kitchen. The brother's still in the goddamn tub, washing his ass,
Oh my
right?
gosh. Not
He wa-
knowing nothing.
not knowing nothing, right? Um, there was one time I always bring this up. They put the gun. One of the dudes put the gun down on the counter, right next to my head. In my head, I said, "You can choose to be a hero
You know what?
or not." And I said, "You know what? Today's not to be a hero. I want to go to
Right.
I want to go to school, right?
Right.
I'm not about to be a hero because at one point in time, I really thought these were undercover cops. I really did. So well, let's just kill the suspense. Yes, his step pop sold weed. So that's what
Hmm.
they came. They came to rob him. That's basically what it was, a robbery. So
So
what they
they were not the police?
No, they weren't the police. They weren't the police. They was actually part of a local gang in the area. So what they
Wow.
was doing, they had been watching us for a long time because they knew our pattern. Remember, I told you they stood at my homeboy gate at the
Uh-huh.
apartment.
Uh-huh.
So they knew my routine. My routine was to go to his apartment, then to leave out, and then go to my homeboy's house. That's why they was watching the pattern. And so after
Mm.
I'm actually like the tie up. I'm the tie in. Like they're waiting for me. They're waiting for me to go inside the house.
Because they
So
okay.
because if I go in, I could if they don't see me go in, then they gotta have another lookout to see if I'm coming. Because if
Yeah.
I see them getting robbed, then I can call the police
Yeah, yeah.
or whatever. So they knew my pattern. Go in
Wow.
there, we sitting on the floor. We sitting on the floor. The brother finally the brother finally come out of the tub. This nigga he got on this towel. Come sit your stupid ass. Come sit your stupid ass down. He tie his towel up and he's sitting on the floor with a towel like this or whatever. It's funny because nothing happened to us, but they didn't get away with a lot. They actually got away with like a little bit of weed, a little bit of money, and some candy. Because he sold candy too.
Wait,
Um
like regular candy?
Regular candy. Yeah. At that time, the only edibles that we knew about was brownies. That's when they were used to put the actual weed in the brownies.
Yeah.
They didn't have any edible candies back then.
So they
We're
sold
talking
the
we're talking about it's either 99 or 2000 at
okay,
this
yeah.
point.
And they
And
stole the candy. That
yeah,
was
because I don't know how the setup was in the bedroom, but they knew to go in the bedroom, and they took a little bit. They didn't even take the major stash, from what I was told, but
mm,
they got away with a couple of dollars, some weed, and some candy. Then they called the real police. Then they called the real police. Obviously, he didn't tell them that he stole
right.
the weed, but he did tell them like, "Yo, we got robbed, we got ambushed and stuff like that." And I'm sitting over here like, "Yo, I just need a note so I can go to school because I'm
Right.
not going back home to tell my mom that I got kidnapped. I'm not, because she's not gonna let me come back over here, and I want to come back over here because these are my friends."
Right, right, right. What
And
a
so I went
that's
to school. I went to school, and I got there. I think it may have been like second period or something like that. And I'm in there. She's like, "Yeah, you know, I just got robbed. I was kidnapped." You know what I'm saying? And yeah, that was it. That was it. And
wow.
we know who did it, but we don't know personally who did it. Like, we don't know the exact person. And I
Mhm.
do now. I don't today. This was, oh man, this was 20 something years ago. So I don't remember their face. I couldn't point them out in the lineup or anything like that.
Right.
But they didn't cover their face up at all.
Mm.
But we knew where they was from. They was from a gang over there in that area. We knew that. That's, you know what I'm saying. The the cold thing was, they also jumped my boy. Now I don't remember that time period, but they also jumped my boy, and he got jumped literally. Tim, he got jumped in or close to the alley that was connected to his house. So he basically got connected. I mean, he basically got jumped by my other homeboy, where my other homeboy stayed at, and,
Mm.
yeah, they called him. And we know who did it. We know. I should say we know what gang did it.
Mhm.
And I bring up that story because I never told my mom. I never
Yeah,
told my mom.
I got stories like that where you don't tell your mom because they're gonna worry, or like you said, they're gonna say you can't go over there, which
Yeah,
is smart. Like that is what a
yeah.
responsible parent would do.
Because as a parent, you're
Mhm.
not going nowhere near that
Facts.
spot again. But yeah, that was basically it. Fun fact that I've been kidnapped before.
Wow. Now that I didn't see coming. Like, and even the police, like it getting raided, I was like, oh, okay,
They
okay,
played it so well.
okay.
I was so ignorant. I didn't really catch on until we was actually sitting down. Till we was actually sitting down in the kitchen, like, oh, wait a minute, backup never came.
Yeah,
We're getting robbed.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
But
So the good thing was nobody was harmed at all. Nobody.
yeah, wow. Because that is definitely some. Trying to think what type of TV show. New York Undercover, CSI, like faking like you're wait, like that was well thought out.
It was as far as the execution, but what
Mhm.
they actually got out of it was a waste of time.
Yeah, that part. But as far as and being bold enough to not cover your face and like not care, and did anything ever happen to them for doing this? Like, yeah. So like that's bold. They
I'm not gonna say something did or didn't. I just
okay,
know.
okay, okay. Never mind, never mind. Never well,
uh,
either way,
I can
that
tell you
was
this: if anything did happen to him, had nothing to do with me.
facts.
Had nothing to do with me.
Facts.
Remember, I was
Facts.
just the one coming to
Yeah.
get my friends, which
Yeah.
is, you know what I'm saying, and that was
Mhm.
it. But I just remember, uh, it's stories like this. And real quick, I don't want to tell an extra story, but I did walk home in the fifth grade with the chicken pox. And the only reason why I bring that up is because between the fifth grade and high school, is crazy the stuff that I went through, and I was allowed to go home without any parents.
So I will. Speaking of fifth grade, I will tell this story. This was like because yeah, I've had a lot of. I remember being in the fifth grade, and it was me, my younger brother. I'm the oldest, so it was me, my younger brother, and our neighbor. We would walk back and forth to school, and it's interesting because where we walked, since then there's a highway there that's there. So it used to be like trees and a forest and all this stuff. Now there's like car dealerships and a highway. So like nobody is walking across this now, but this was literally like 91 or something like that. But I remember us walking home, and this was when there were a lot of kidnappings going on around our area, you know what I'm saying? And I remember us walking home, and I've always been somebody who pays attention to my surroundings, you know what I'm saying? And I just remember this car, this truck, and it was like a two-door truck. So it wasn't even like a big truck, but I just remember this truck pulling over, and there was at that point no reason for them to pull over on the side of the road. And we're a little bit further away, but somehow I happen to see that out of my peripheral, and I see him get out of the car, and we just take off running. And this is when we young kids, so you got all the energy, you know what I'm saying? And we ran, I want to say from school to home was probably about a mile. We might have been a quarter mile away from the school, so we probably had three quarters of a mile to get home.
That's a long run.
And we ran all the way home because
When your adrenaline going, it don't even.
yeah. And he did, like, he was on some trying to kidnap us or grab somebody because he chased after us a little bit, but he was an older white dude. This is what I
Yo,
remember.
I just finished watching low key. Seriously, I just finished watching The Black Phone last night.
I haven't seen that yet. A lot of people keep talking about
If Anxiety was a movie,
it.
that's it.
Okay, okay. But yeah, he did try to chase after us, but he's an older white dude. Like, I mean, he well, sometimes you can't tell with the way white people age, but I feel like he probably is older than what I am now. Like he just kind of like
He probably was a nasty 50 or 40,
yeah,
50,
like
60. They,
heavy, not like heavy set, but like kind of stocky and had, you know how they'll have like the belly or whatever, dad
mhm.
bod, but a little beyond that. So he wasn't clearly running and catching us because we got away, but yeah, that's just I almost got kidnapped, and yeah, that was 5th grade.
I was just talking to my wife because she doesn't necessarily like watching movies like that.
Mhm.
She probably wouldn't watch them at all, but she loves for me to describe the movie to her.
Mhm.
And I was telling her like, yo, back in the '70s, before I was born, that was an era where a lot of kids was coming up missing.
Mhm.
Because as a kid that was born and raised in the '80s and the '90s, we are reading the missing kids on the milk carton that
Mhm.
were missing back in the '60s and the '70s.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So, and that correlates with the movie that I watched last night. But I was telling her it wasn't and it was just probably it's just my ignorance, and being from Southern California, it wasn't a lot of kids that were of my skin color being kidnapped. It was more so of seeing white kids. But it was crazy because I do remember seeing a couple of black kids on the back of a milk carton and things like that. But it was more so I used to when you see these movies, it's more so white kids coming up.
Mhm. And
Missing and things like
even what I remember around that time, people getting kidnapped, I don't remember it being a ton of black kids, you know, coming up missing.
because they
And
was probably like you and your siblings. Y'all niggas got speed. We out.
probably, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, man, shout out because there's a lot of things in my life that I know God really was looking out for me because I used to make, just like you said, you didn't tell your mom what happened because you knew the common sense in her as a parent would be like, that's dangerous. You don't know, you know what I'm saying? You don't need to go back over there. And as kids, we don't think straight or wise choices. And
Well,
so,
parents back in the '80s and the '90s wasn't well. I can't really say that. Back in the '80s, they probably was thinking about that because we're coming off of the '70s decade.
mhm,
But in the '90s, it was normal. I was a latchkey kid
Same.
since I was like in the 3rd grade.
I
So
told you I was in the 5th grade, walking over a mile home,
yeah,
walking to and from school.
yeah.
Yeah.
And now that I look back at it, even though we are the parents that, shout out to Manny B, we're raising suburban kids.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I would
the
never.
the lifestyles are different to
Mhm.
where we are those, back in my day, I had to know it's really like that. I was walking home. I still to this day, I know my mom had to work, and my elementary school was 5 or 6 long blocks from my grandmother's house. So that's why I used to walk. When I say I was walking home, I was walking to my granny house. My
Mhm.
mom would pick us up, or sometimes I would stay the night because school was right there in walking distance.
Yeah.
But the fact that I didn't know what chickenpox was at the time, and I got it for the first time in the 5th grade, and the nurse sent me home, blew my mind. Now, as an adult, I'm like, yo, that's kind of crazy when you think about it. You're
No
letting
kind of call the parent or.
Well, that's the thing, though. I'm pretty sure they called somebody. They called my mom and my granny is on my emergency contact card. So
Mhm.
they called them. So I'm not sure if they didn't get in contact or my mom gave them the okay. The dog, I had to walk under a freeway and walk a couple of blocks by an abandoned hospital and walk to my granny's house. And I'm like, where there was winos on the corner, and they're still there to this day.
Mhm.
And I'm like, dog, I was really in the 5th grade with chickenpox, walking to my granny house. Nobody picked me up. I just thought that was just, as
Yeah,
an
that
adult, I just think
is.
that was wild because the kids I have now, nah, I couldn't let them do that.
The kids I have now, like, yeah, there's just none of them have rode the bus. Like, none of them. Like, they.
My son rode the bus with me one time, and we did it just so he can get the experience. He hasn't been on the bus since.
My kids are, I will call a Uber, a Lyft, or I will pay somebody to come get me. Like, we're in transition and we were talking about moving, and I was like, "Oh, we can move somewhere close to your job. That way you could walk if need be." Because my youngest doesn't have a car, and her sister switched jobs, so they don't work together anymore. And she's like, "Who gonna walk?" She was like, "No, somebody will come get me before I go walk. I'll just have somebody pick me up on the way to work." And I'm like,
Real talk.
I mean, but like, come on now, you know what I'm saying? So.
That's how it is. Like the times are different. I can
Mhm.
totally understand some stuff you just have to change with the times. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Which is not to say is any better. It's more convenient, but
Mhm.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's better because whatever danger you can get into on a bus, you can get into in somebody's personal car,
Yep.
or even worse.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot. Yeah. But technology makes it to where like all my kids, we share our location. So it's like.
That is so clutch because you have so many devices nowadays to where it could track you,
Mhm.
or at least God forbid, you got one of those smart kidnappers that's gonna throw your shit, but it's still going to be leading
At
to that
least you know.
area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the thing because I read an article years ago where this woman got kidnapped and she sent her boyfriend her location. And he was like, "Why are you?" I think she was in Georgia, and they didn't like live in Georgia, and she just said kidnapped, and he was able to track her location. And when I read that, I was like, you know what? Hey man, like y'all got to share your location with me at all times. I share mine with you because and they weren't even adults at that time. And I was like, it's not even about me needing to know where you're at all times. It's more so if something happens and you don't know where you're at,
right.
I can find you rather than you trying to, whatever. So.
Yeah, all of that shit is privacy and funny until you really need for somebody to come
Hmm.
get your ass and you don't know where you at.
Exactly. And there have been times when they didn't, now they weren't in danger, but it's still, they didn't know where they were at. And I was able to just either they sent me their location or I just looked at the find a phone feature and I'm like, okay, I'm on my way. You know what I'm saying? So definitely comes in handy, y'all. So if you have kids, I don't know if Android or Samsung or whatever has that feature. I would hope so, but iPhone, I know there's Life 360. Like there is
I
apps
got all that.
where
I got Life 360. I got an Apple Watch, and I got an iPhone. I got all that.
you know what I'm saying? Like y'all, it's in this day and age, too much happens to where you're. It's not about you being your kid's friend. You know what I'm saying? Although I would say where my kids are at as adults, we've reached this kind of sweet spot where we're building, I wouldn't say friendship because you're still my kids, but our relationship is evolving as they're adults and we still have really good relationships, but I still got all their location. You know what I'm saying? And they got mine and it is what it is cuz people are crazy out here. Sex trafficking, just all these
Man.
things are happening and yeah, so that is my encouragement to y'all. Thank you for listening to the episode. I hope y'all enjoyed the life that we used to live, the Midwest, West Coast story time. You know what I'm saying? And Baylor's information will be in the episode notes. Y'all, if you should know where to find him if you're a regular listener because he's been on here many, many times. I know the dating pool department is still popping. Is there merchandise on the site? Because I know.
No,
Okay.
it's still popping, but I just haven't. I haven't made. Well, I have made things new. I just haven't updated the site.
Okay.
I'm just telling people, do not give up on love
Okay.
or these hoes. Either or.
And he keeps saying that the pool is not dirty,
No,
but like,
it's not that the pool is not dirty because it was dirty before y'all started dating. Is that y'all choose to keep getting in the dirtiest one?
mm,
Because I found my wife in a dirty pool.
mm,
So I'm not huge on excuses.
mm,
You still got to go swimming.
mm,
So like, how many? There's pools, there's lakes, there's ponds, there's the ocean. I don't advise you to get in all those. Let's go to a different pool. And what does that mean? That means stop dating within your city. Stop dating within your state. Date somebody else from another state. Date somebody else from another country. Date a
mm,
different race.
I've actually strongly considered that one.
Do it. I don't see nothing wrong with
Yeah,
it.
I've not yet, but and it's not like I was ever opposed to it. It's just the opportunity never presented itself. But I've actually been thinking about it a lot more lately, just because
And
I don't
and,
know.
and watch this. This is strictly from from management. Dating, relationships, and marriage is not for everybody.
mm.
So if that's not your goal, then don't do it. But if you have that as a goal, do not give up on it.
And it's so funny. It's actually a smart goal too, because I'm big on goals with my company and financial goals and whatever. And I've made some personal goals, and to be dating by November of this year is actually my smart goal. So it's meaning me being more intentional. It's meaning me not being as closed off as I've kind of been. I realized to kind of like that self-preservation. So it's kind of I've done a lot of working on myself to prepare for that because you can't be out here presenting. You shouldn't. There are a lot of people that do, but you shouldn't be presenting like the most damaged version of yourself to people. So
Yeah,
like as I
and you're probably gonna bump into somebody that's damaged because ain't nobody out here perfect.
facts,
So if you have that in your head that you have to find someone perfect for you, well,
nah,
guess what? They not gonna be perfect at all.
no,
That's the cool part about it. It's
and
a lot of work.
yeah, and I'm not perfect, but there are definitely things that I'm noticing that are like that have been hindrances and I'm like, okay, that's something that all right, now I see that.
The
let me
good
just be
thing is,
free.
the good thing is, the older we get, the more we the less we have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a it could be a negative and a positive thing. You could be stuck in your ways. But if you're wise enough to know that you do have to change some things, you'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about it is, the older I get, the more, like, the freer I get, to where I'm like, I'm just gonna be me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need to. I saw a meme recently that was like, be free, be this, be that, because the person that you're holding back, there's somebody out there that, like, wants to love that person that you're hiding. And it's
Yeah.
not like I am ever fake, but I'm just becoming freer, kind of like the older I get. And even with that, it's more so being free to feel. Because as y'all know that listen, that's something that it's been a journey this whole the whole time I've been on this show. The first episode was vulnerability ew. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's definitely a journey, but yeah, so obviously y'all will hear about me dating before the public because I talk about my life on here. So it'll come up if I meet my SMART goal. It'd be nice if I met it early, because
Yeah.
now that my life is more settled, it's kind of like sharing your life with somebody. Like, yeah, and I do want to remarry, so that's a goal for me. I do want
It's a
to.
goal, so get right back at it.
Yeah.
And there's no book, there's no YouTube, there's no seminar that's going to teach you how to properly date.
Right.
Dating is going out there, meeting somebody, and see if they're compatible to your life. That is
Mhm.
it. Is it to me? Is really that simple. Is the hard part? This is the difficult part. Is that there's some give and some take,
Mhm.
and there's some work, and you got to
Mhm.
keep work. It's like working out. Once you
Mhm.
go to the gym, you start going to the gym a lot. You start working on different parts of your body, your muscles and stuff like that. Then you got to maintain it. That's
Mhm.
all. That's all it is. Now it's on you to pay attention or ignore the red flags. I ain't got nothing to do with that.
All right, y'all. We'll go ahead and end on that note. So, thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure you follow Baylor on social media. Make sure you follow me on social media. Subscribe to the YouTube, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.
Ladies and gents, this concludes transmission. Tune in next time for a whole new edition. Another adventure and mission to share, be heard, and clarify the vision of this whole new world for...